A couple years back, I became a Metroid fan on a whim, and funnily enough, the game to convert me was actually the very first Metroid for the NES. This is one of my favorite NES games because it's one of the only ones that is forgiving enough for me to actually beat it without having a stroke. There are some mistakes, obviously. I hated how you had to grind your health and missiles back for 3 hours every time you died, and there's this one pit that I just never found my way out of. But you do have infinite lives, there are no one-hit deaths, and you can find all kinds of upgrades to make the game way easier. It's one of the few NES games that I can see myself returning to over and over again, so I'm totally down to check out Metroid ROM hacks. It wouldn't be the first time I played a Metroid fan project on Christmas Eve. I played another Metroid 2 remake as the second last episode either last year or the year before, I don't actually remember. Today's game is Metroid Rogue Dawn, which dropped way back in 2017. This was recommended to me at least one point or another, but it wasn't until now that I actually decided to buckle down and actually give it a whirl, and let me tell you, it's great. It's so great. The game takes place shortly before the events of the original Metroid and follows Dawn Aaron, raised by Ridley to be a human operative tasked with stealing a biological specimen from a Federation research crew on planet SR-388. It almost sounds like a gaming computer from the 80s. Along the way, you get a surprising number of exposition dumps and dialogue which have no equivalent in the vanilla game. The first thing you're going to notice about Metroid Rogue Dawn is the graphics. This is an incredible looking game for the NES, leveraging the limited color palettes and resolution in phenomenal ways to create a look that is somewhat familiar to the original game, yet entirely distinct at the same time. There's a certain desaturated dreariness to it, at least in the beginning, that really drives home the feeling of solitude and isolation. I still remember when I saw the rippling water effect. I know it's like a 3-frame animation or whatever, but it still stands out as an NES game. It looks so smooth and natural. From what I understand, this game is console compatible as long as you have the right equipment, so this isn't accelerated by the emulator. And you know, that alone is pretty impressive. There is a naturalistic element to the environments that is far more potent than the original. The underground caverns with limited light conditions, the forest area with the different colored trees and vines. It is an exemplary demonstration of how much a focused and distinct art direction can leverage such limited hardware. Dawn plays largely the same as Samus, but she's been completely redesigned, and despite being a tiny little sprite, it's remarkable how distinct and detailed it looks. The animations are pretty great too. Check it out, if you look upwards while spamming the gun, it looks like she's figure skating on one foot. The enemies are familiar to the original game, but there are some new designs to keep in touch with the new art direction, and it's married to a new and refreshing soundtrack that, much like the visuals, is a great demonstration of what can be done with this ancient hardware when people know how best to use it. Rogue Dawn carries the great tradition of Metroid. You have this big sprawling map with all kinds of secrets and upgrades and areas that you really have to focus on to find where everything is. Mapping out the area in your head to try and figure out the best angle from which to start looking for the next upgrade. Fundamentally, it's very much the same, but in an entirely new world. As great as this game is, it is still a Metroid game, so you have to be really prepared to get stuck, because you will, again, and again, and again. I got stuck within 5 minutes of starting, which is par for the course for Metroid. I shamefully consulted a walkthrough and discovered that you can perform a very specific jump down a steep cliff with the Morphball to bounce into a tiny little alcove. For real. I don't know if that was necessarily the thing that you're supposed to do, because I've seen other parts of the game where the way I did it was not quite the same way that other playthroughs did. There's a new feature which, tragically, I discovered by complete accident, where if you pause the game and press select A and B all at once, it kills you. Then it shows you this menu where you can actually save the game, which is another great feature that wasn't in the original. I guess they figured that it's a Metroid game, so you're definitely gonna get hopelessly lost somewhere and not know how you got there or how to get back. So if you're really fucked up, you can kill yourself and return to the last elevator. To help with the navigation, there's a mini-map in the corner which wasn't there in the original. That, and you can actually get the entire map when you pause. You can scroll around the whole thing to try to map out where you've been and where you haven't been. And if that's not enough, it comes with an actual image of the map, which is super helpful. If you're playing on an emulator on a PC, you can have the game window on one side of the screen and then open the map in an image editing software on the other side of the screen, where you can use a basic paint tool to scratch off where you've been in real time. Even with all this stuff to help you, you'll still likely get stuck at some point or another and find yourself stumbling around in the cryptic environments before falling into the abyss and ending up, in Mario Land. Yeah, really. There's an entire section of the game that's Mario themed. Apparently, this game takes place on the Mushroom Kingdom planet. Look, if you stand on the mushroom, you can get all your health back. That's amazing. I thought this part of the game would be like 3 screens long, but no. This is a whole big ass section of the game, and you even get an energy tank. That's pretty ballin', not gonna lie. I hate these spinies even more than in the actual Mario games because you can't kill them. They just stand there and act as the most inconvenient hitboxes in an area where you're getting shot at by bullet bills coming from all directions. The walkthrough that I referenced earlier beat the game in a little over an hour, but of course that was a walkthrough, so the person who made it already knew where everything was. It's a cryptic game, so playing it blind will take way longer than that. It's very unlikely that someone who didn't already beat it before would be able to complete it in one sitting. But that's what Metroid is all about. Even though I've never played any other ROM hacks of Metroid, I'm still confident that Rogue Dawn is one of the good ones. The gameplay is possibly better than the original with the addition of the map screen and the save system, which are very modern flourishes. Also, I forgot to mention that the game only knocks you down to 99 health instead of 30 whenever you die. There are also these really convenient recharge stations that give you your health and missiles back. So there's none of that bullshit where you have to grind enemies for 300 years every time you die. For that stuff alone, I'd say you should definitely give this game a whirl. It is a must play if you are a fan of the original. Now, this is where I'm gonna end things, and as usual, I won't give any hints whatsoever about what the Christmas finale is. I'm pretty sure nobody's gonna guess it either way, which is just the way I like it. I mean, what's the point of wrapping presents if you already know what's inside the wrapping paper, right? In any case, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you all for watching this far. Hopefully the finale will be out on time. If not, it'll be a belated Christmas gift. Sometimes Santa has to take some detours to get his sled fixed up, but he usually makes it there in the end. So thank you all for watching, and Merry Christmas, everyone!